Hi everyone, here's the Book Chemist once again. Today I'm reviewing Help Wanted by Adelle Waldman, a novel of workplace intrigue set in a mid-market superstore in the US. It focuses on movements. The team of people in this superstore who are responsible for unloading the trucks that deliver the goods sold in the store to the store every night, for unloading these trucks and then putting the merchandise on the shelf before the store opens in the morning. It follows them at an eventful time in the history of the shop. There's a promotion coming up, and the movements team are determined to find ways to get their manager, Meredith, to get this promotion so that they can get her off their back, because Meredith is the worst. Help Wanted is first and foremost a really fascinating look into the world of modern corporations. And by fascinating, I mean depressing. It talks at length about how drastically the living conditions of these workers, the working class people in movement, have deteriorated in the last 20 years. It talks about the pressures on their time, the physical pressure they're under to perform to the company standards every day in this hectic, dangerous, really working conditions. It talks about how bleak their outcome is, especially in the years since the 2008 economic crisis. I work for a commercial publisher, and while it would be wrong and disingenuous for me to compare my working conditions to those of the people in the novel, I definitely recognize some of maybe the drab corporate strategies that Town Square, the store, the employer of these people, utilized time and again in the book, such as the way it encourages workers to work smarter instead of actually investing in making their lives easier, or the way it encourages all sorts of chummy initiatives instead of offering substantial benefits or even a pay increase. A particular pet peeve of mine when it comes to corporate initiatives is this tendency to rename departments or teams that had sensible names with more opaque, wishy-washy, vague, and kind of alienating terms. The people working in the book used to be called logistics, which makes sense. You know, logistics is a thing. They take the goods, they put them somewhere else. Instead, they are renamed movement, whatever that is. I'm perhaps overly influenced by the George Eliot quote that opens the novel, but Help Wanted feels very much like a book in the vein of George Eliot, a book as committed as that author was to providing an intriguing story with complex characters and difficult, unpleasant characters in them. Meredith is certainly a fairly unpleasant antagonist for the novel. But that is also a novel that's also determined to explore those characters' psyche, their backstory, their conditions, with the same honesty that it shows to its protagonists. In these, I must say, Help Wanted is extremely sensitive, and it treats these people as fully rounded characters and fully rounded humans. They are surprisingly talented and smart and insightful, and then at times they can also be really dumb or even nasty. They make poor choices, but they can also come through for one another. And the book can even poke fun at them without coming across as mean. This is by no means a given, because considering the circumstances, it would be very easy for the novel to pity these characters and to paint their story as a really tragic tale of disadvantage. I mean, these are people who see a McDonald's breakfast as a very rare treat and a rare chance to eat some nutritious food. It would be easy enough for the book to come across as misery porn, as a way for maybe middle-class reader to look in curiosity at the life of these people. But that's not at all what happens. And the book also avoids the other pitfall, which is to paint these people as heroic, wholesome, salt of the earth characters. Not at all. Instead, they're just They're just people. They're just conveyed in their full humanity, with all of their flaws and all of their beauty shining through. The novel's plot is really compelling, and as I said, the way the characters are built is really intriguing. The ending is perhaps slightly curious. Not because it's anticlimactic, I don't think it is at all. I think it offers a beautiful resolution to the tale of who's gonna get this important promotion, but because it's paced weirdly. There are quite a few things that happen in the final pages of the book at a weird rhythm, and then it ends on a strange spark of hope that flares up on the very last page of the novel. I think, however, that this is very appropriate for the book. The way the ending is paced is really appropriate because it speaks of the way life, working life, is. The fact that by and large, nothing much changes in people's working life. There's not really a big climactic moment, a big shock twist ending that is either triumphant or tragic. Sure, there can be interesting developments. People might join, new people might join the company. Some people might leave. Some people sometimes might get fired. The company might crack down on some benefits. But by and large, you just continue day in, day out with your work without a real horizon in sight, but just by cultivating those little hopes, those little illusions, sometimes foolish ones, that keep you going and give you a bit of reassurance that things might look better in the future than they do now. I think Help Wanted is a fantastic book. It shows a real virtuosistic capacity for conveying the differences in behavior, in psychology, in a very diverse cast of characters. And it speaks about something that is true of corporations, but is also true of nations, and it's quite possibly true of the human race at large. The idea that the people who compose these things, taken individually, are by and large quite lovely, and yet somehow the things as a whole end up behaving monstrously. And this might be because it's usually the ruthless elements of these groups that rise to the top and lead all the others. I may be getting slightly ahead of myself, but I want to say that this almost feels like a germinal for the 21st century. I'm thinking of Zola's novel about the terrible living conditions of miners in northern France at the end of the 19th century. Sure, the living conditions for the workers here are maybe not as gruesome, but their prospects, their fighting spirit is proportionally sapped. There is not a whiff of rebelliousness in this book. There's a sense that the company's oppression, the oppression of the system, more broadly speaking, this is by no means just the fault of Town Square, the individual employer of these people. The system's oppressiveness feels more inevitable and even more sinister. And ultimately, the living conditions are not really that dissimilar between the people of movement in Help Wanted and the miners in Germinal. They live in cramped living conditions with very little privacy. They struggle to provide even nourishment for their family, their children, their loved one. They struggle to provide even the most basic forms of amusement for them, and they definitely struggle to obtain medical care, the medical care that they need, and their chances for improvement seem nowhere on the horizon, really. It's a bleak novel, but it doesn't feel bleak. I'm probably making it sound more preachy than it is. It really isn't. Instead, it just tries to convey the challenges and the difficulties and the full humanity of the people having to cope with these environments and these unfair conditions. I really couldn't recommend it more highly. I hope you'll take it as a chance to read the book. If you do, if you've read it already, please let me know what you thought, if you were as enthusiastic about it. I am pretty sure it's going to be one of my favorite books from 2024, and I look forward to discussing it in the comments as always. Thank you for watching the review. Bye, everybody.